welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mig Alphanim. This article here is actually brought to you today by the incomparable, brilliant Blockchain 663, one of our legendary subscribers here, members here. Blockchain 663 brought this to my attention. This article is titled G20 Moves Forward with International Crypto Framework. Great researcher, Blockchain 663, in my humble opinion. This is my humble opinion. It says here, the upcoming framework will affect users in several countries by automatically exchanging information about crypto transactions between jurisdictions on an annual basis. Look how fast they're moving at setting everything up. Look, in this last year and a half, they've been moving at light speeds. Is it a mistake to see that simultaneously all the biggest companies have been getting in position? I don't think that's a mistake to make that connection. I don't. They're getting ready, I think, over the next year or two to flood crypto with capital. They've been doing a great job of flooding people out, right? So they've been flooding people out, and yet they've been getting in position. And it's like, well, for us as researchers, we see that. Regular people don't see that. All they see is the doom and gloom over crypto. Meanwhile, they have all this legislation they're setting up. They have things like this going on. Let's read this little tidbit here. It says, leaders of the 20 biggest economies in the world, collectively known as G20, are pushing for a speedy implementation of a cross-border framework for crypto assets. According to local reports in New Delhi, where the group members are attending a 2-day summit, the framework will facilitate information exchange between countries beginning in 2027. So there's another year for you to add to your calendar. 2027, that's interesting. That's a little bit of a ways off. I wonder if they have like a sort of a gap measure here, right, to hold them over until that time. There's no way I see them waiting for that long, but we'll see. It says, quote, we call for the swift implementation of the Crypto Asset Reporting Framework, CARF, and amendments to the CRS, Common Reporting Standard. We ask the Global Forum of Transparency and Exchange of Information for tax purposes. Of course, they do everything under the guise of, we don't want you to do something bad, and also taxes, right? Oh, of course. Tax purposes to identify an appropriate and coordinated timeline to commence exchanges by relevant jurisdictions, unquote, stated a consensus declaration signed by G20 leaders. Several countries could be affected by the upcoming framework, including, this is a lot here. This tells you how important this is, how big this is when you have BRICS nations and Western nations coming together and say, hey, yeah, we're all in agreement of this, even though they disagree on almost everything else. It says here, including Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States, as well as the European Union. 2/3 of the world's population lives in a G20 country. It says here, the Crypto Asset Reporting Framework was introduced in October 2022 by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The document was designed to give tax authorities greater visibility into crypto transactions, as well as the individuals behind them. Now you see why they went so hard. At one point, I'm not sure what came of it, but why they went so hard against privacy coins. Under the proposed framework, countries would automatically exchange information on crypto transactions between jurisdictions annually, covering transactions on unregulated crypto exchanges and wallet providers. Crypto transactions are already subject to new disclosure standards in many countries. Now, you see this measure, this degree of control that they like to have. This is exactly why they don't want the bank coins to overtake central banks, render them useless, because then they're not in control of anything. And power and control is something in its own right that people obsess over. It's not always about the capital. To remain at the top, many individuals and entities, they like to force others down, right? To feel important, they must look down upon others. That contrast brings a definition of sorts, an experience of sorts to those individuals. And it's the only way that they know how to exist. This, what the bank coins do or Bitcoin does, both really. They take away that aspect of power and control and place it into the hands of the people. Now, that's not to say that this system is not going to be without problems just because they're merging with the new financial system. I think that it's inevitable that at some point in the future, I think they're going to be greatly minimized. And because as technologies move forward, the people need these governing forces less and less, less and less. I think that's one reason why they're delaying so much and trying to FUD out the new 1%. Because the new 1% is it's not about the capital. It's not about the money. It's about what the new 1% represents. Those who are aware of ultimate freedom. Those who have the capability, if everything goes according to plan, to exact ultimate freedom. Not only upon themselves, but upon others. This is a greater battle than most will ever know. I don't think a lot of people know what they're involved in, but there's a changing of the age happening right before our eyes. Let's continue on here. It says, in May, the European Union approved updated rules to adhere to the CARF, setting procedures for automatic information sharing between European governments for tax purposes. As per the new rules, the transfer of digital assets should be accompanied by the name of the beneficiary, the beneficiary's distributed ledger address, as well as the beneficiary's account number. So let me elaborate just a little bit further. As time goes on, the technologies overall are rendering these legacy governmental forces very irrelevant. You see, the same thing that could be said about how crypto renders central banks useless, and it definitely could. They're not allowing that right now, but you've heard Fabio Panetta issue his concerns. You've heard Christine Lagarde issue her concerns. But the same thing could be said about, let's say, artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence, how they're using it to negate a lot of jobs already, right? The same could be done with governmental forces, correct? Artificial intelligence could be programmed to do a lot of things that a lot of those members of governmental agencies, regulatory agencies do, and it could do it better than they do it now, correct? I mean, it's just a hypothesis, right? It's the same that they would throw upon us. But what I'm trying to get at is that it sets the people free from these manacles that have been on them for quite some time. At least there's the possibility of that. So there's a battle going on for power, not just capital. Capital is but a representation of power. It's a representation of something. Power, freedom. Different people use tools in different ways. It says here, the group also endorsed recommendations from Financial Stability Board for the, quote, regulation, supervision, and oversight of crypto assets, activities, and markets, and of global stablecoin arrangements, unquote, according to the announcement. Published in July, the recommendations set similar standards for stablecoins as commercial banks. Why? So they're putting stablecoins on the level of commercial banks. If that's the case, then what are the bank coins? That's interesting. Didn't Christine Lagarde say that there was the possibility of the bank coins rendering the, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you can look this quote up, but that they could render central banks useless? But of course, that's why they've been wrestling with them for years. Isn't that interesting? So then what is the value of these things? Stable coins I throw to the side, but if they're going to say stable coins should be set at the similar standards to commercial banks, I'm going to say the bank coins are at the level of the central banks. All right, let's continue on here. It says, I'm just throwing out thoughts. You don't have to agree with me. It says, and urge regulators to prohibit any activities hindering the identification of involved participants among other recommendations. So yeah, we know about that. The whole privacy problem. So you have that going on. And I believe, and I'm going to, maybe you can say this is a reach here. You let me know. I want to cover this little article here because I believe that this is one caveat, one factor of getting people out of crypto. Crush the economies as much as possible. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of variables here. There's a lot of reasons that they may be doing this, allowing this to happen. Or maybe it could just be a natural cycle of humanity where there's a peak and then there is a valley, right? There's a rise and there's a fall. There's a natural flow to everything. So one could say that, and I would accept that reasoning. But let's just go with the thought that they're crashing everything on purpose. And it's not just a natural cycle. Not alone anyway. Then causing a global depression would make people need that capital that they have tied up into risk assets a little bit more. They would have to sell, just like I've been hearing all year. People have been coming to me telling me, we're selling this, we're selling that. They want people out by any means necessary. There is a great wealth transfer coming. You've heard so many esteemed individuals say the same. There is a great wealth transfer coming. The rubber band is getting pulled further and further and further back. But there's always a release of the rubber band. And then it will fling equally in the opposite direction. The pendulum swings equally to the left as it does to the right. But going by ancient teachings and historical fact, the swing typically begins at the left, at the negative. Right? Then it swings equally to the right, to the positive. Then it resets again. You don't have to go by what I'm saying. But right now, what's happening, you see the markets have been terrible for quite some time. That rubber band is getting pulled back. It's been in that negative for a long time. It's been in that red for a long time. It's a matter of time before natural law says that it must be released. And then it will snap back equally to the right. It's just a matter of who will be left standing when that happens. Who will be there to catch all that capital? The big money knows. That's why they have so much cash, or they have, let's just say capital. They have so much capital on the side waiting to feast, waiting for that moment. This article here is from businessinsider.in. It's titled, Bill Ackman predicts more pain for regional banks and commercial real estate. Let me ask you a question. There's been nothing but problems with the banks. Why are they trying to crush the banks so badly? Raising interest rates, tightening lending standards. You do know the banks are desperate. They're going to take chances. By the way, the banks have been propped up for quite some time. They're continuing to borrow from the Fed's emergency fund. So they're not healthy. They're not healthy at all. I wonder, where's all that capital going to go when all of these banks are belly up? When they collapse, where's that capital going to flow to? Quite interesting, is it not? Then it makes one wonder. They're closing all of these branches. Thousands of bank branches closing even today. What is Citibank closed some the other day? TD Bank has been closing some. They're having even bigger problems. Wells Fargo, who likes to talk a lot. Wells Fargo closing some bank branches, right? All of their systems have been having these different problems. They've been getting hacked continuously. I'm talking about something that's ongoing. Zelle, right? What FedNow is pretty much FedNow is just Zelle on steroids, Cash App and Venmo and all that stuff. It's all the same. Electronic payment systems, not digital, electronic. There's a difference. BIS let us know that. What happened the other day? Their systems went down for Square and Cash App. Interesting. But wait, Zelle has also been having problems. Interesting. The banks themselves have been having problems, correct? People missing money out of certain accounts and things of that nature. Very interesting. I had one article here for some of my other content. Bank of America reportedly refuses to reimburse customers stolen funds. They've been having problems like this. It's not just that bank. Plenty of banks have been having these problems. The future must be different. I think out of necessity. Correct me if I'm wrong. The new financial system is so quiet. It's so quiet right now. And it's for a reason. They've been holding back information also. Not all of it has an NDA for it. They've been holding back a lot of information for a reason. For a reason. Big money trying to get involved in it for a reason. Says here, Bill Ackman warned about excessive government spending. And predicted more pain for regional banks and commercial real estate on the Julia LaRoche show, unquote, this week. Says the billionaire investor and Pershing Square chief who called the redacted crash and the Federal Reserve's shift to hiking interest rates said the outlook was less clear today. He also trumpeted the strength of the U.S. economy. Is that so? Cautioned that artificial intelligence, we were just talking about that, weren't we? Will disrupt many companies. Interesting, isn't it? Why would artificial intelligence not work its way up the chain and disrupt many more things as well? We'll see how this goes in the future. They have not solved the commercial real estate issue. A lot of people may wonder, if they haven't watched the past videos, why I bring that up so much, because commercial real estate is exactly what's going to. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of catalysts that can crash the banks. Commercial real estate is the biggest catalyst to crash the banks. That's why. It's very important to keep up and keep an eye on commercial real estate. And now the economies are going to feel much more pressure as well because of BRICS Nation and OPEC activity. OPEC cutting that. Oh, I don't see them stopping oil cuts anytime soon. I don't. And you know what's happening? So the people are going to feel it across the board. If they think they've seen inflation, they haven't seen anything yet, baby. Nothing. So what the West has been doing with articles now because of OPEC plus oil cuts, they try not to mention that the United States itself closing down additional pipelines as we speak, which, listen, that inflation is what people, in the effect that has on inflation at some point. Energy costs through the roof. I think there's going to be a very cold winter coming up as well. So you have that. So the global economies are simultaneously being attacked by external forces as well as their own. It's very strange, isn't it? What's going on? You see, you have to tear down the foundation of one house in order to build another. You have to demolish one empire in order to raise another. But while that's going on, they never tell the people that's what they're doing. They always sell the people the illusion everything is okay. Everything's fine. So anyway, as OPEC Plus is cutting productions of oil, I've seen a myriad articles being written about new oil production in, I believe it is Guatemala. Is it in Guatemala? I believe it's in Guatemala. And they're saying, well, this new oil production could rival OPEC Plus when. And what deals do they have with the West? Because I didn't read about any, but I could be out of the know of that. So the economies are going to feel that much more pressure in the coming year or so, because those negative effects from OPEC Plus cuts have not been felt yet. Not yet. You can read articles on that right now. So the new financial system, XRP, XLM, the way to move capital flow, when everything is being strangled, I think that's what's sitting on the other side of that rubber band snapback. Is sitting on that positive side. Lots of capital will flood the new financial system because it must. This is what they're relying on. The DLTs, the big money. This is why they got cleared first. I don't think it's any mistake that XRP has regulatory clarity. I don't think it's any mistake that so many places have XLM categorized as a currency. I don't think it's a mistake that Algorand is in the position it's in, or Quant, or XDC. And I think we're in an absolutely amazing position. So I appreciate you all. This is a little bit different type of video. Tomorrow we will return to the regular style video. I appreciate you all being here and listening to my words. Thank you greatly. And I wish the best for every single one of you out there. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. Hey, tomorrow's Monday. Do well. Be great like I know you can be. Be successful. Feel good about what you do. Confident. And we're going to tackle another week. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, folks, let's get to the money.